The following episode discusses sensitive and disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Yankee and Canuck podcast, Best Picture Series, where we talk about all the Academy Award Best Pictures, past to present.
And I'm your host, a Yankee.
And I'm your host, a Canuck.
And today we're going to be talking about From Here to Eternity, a 1953 film. This is the 26th picture to win Best Picture. It was nominated for, 13 different categories, and it won 8 of those. Interestingly, in this Academy Awards also, all the nominees, or all the major winners actually, were black and white films.
Yeah, I mean, even though there's been quite a few films in Technicolor at this point, you still got majority of them black and white.
Yeah, it wasn't standardized just yet. I think it won't be for another decade or two. But yeah, at the time, it matched the record set by Gone with the Wind in terms of nominations From Here to Eternity.
Yeah, got Best Picture, Best Director, Screenplay, Actor, Supporting Actress.
Cinematography, editing, recording, sound recording. So, yeah. Everything, practically, because it was such a good film, right? It was so amazing. Matter of fact, what is From Here to Eternity? Because the title doesn't lend itself much in terms of description. It's about this army dude that goes into this base that's basically in Hawaii. This is around, where Pearl Harbor and all that stuff happened. But before the events of Pearl Harbor happen, we just follow a bunch of soldiers kind of just doing stuff on the island. Like they engage in prostitution, drinking, smoking. They're just playing guitar. They're fighting each other. And yeah, that's pretty much the film, I think.
Montgomery Clift, he's Pruitt, right? Pruitt. Yeah. And basically his thing is they want him to get back into boxing. He used to be a boxing champ, and so they want him to box on the barracks for their team or whatever. And he doesn't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
He's like, no, someone got injured in the past, and he has all this guilt and whatnot. And then the other characters, Captain Holmes, and who's the other one? Burt Lancaster plays.
He's like a sergeant. He constantly says, Warden, I'm a sergeant. Yeah.
So,
Milton Warden, yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are the principal characters you follow around.
Yeah, and then, of course, Frank Sinatra.
Of course. He just is there.
Yeah, so basically one of them, is taking a lot of crap because he refuses to box. The other one is having trouble. He basically wants to have an affair with his commanding officer's wife. Mm-hmm. And then you got Frank Sinatra, who just wants to drink and
party and all that stuff.
Party, yeah.
He's very scrawny in the film, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just like, whenever you think of Frank Sinatra, you think of like he's like a huskier dude or something like that. At least that's the image that I have in my mind. But then when you see the dude, you're like, holy crap, you could just blow on him and he could just fall over.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was a pretty small guy, like 5'5" or something.
Yeah, it's just really his attitude is what made him seem grander than life, I feel.
Yeah, and his connections.
Yeah, he was a mobster. he was like one of those dudes who was well connected, and he'd just be like, hey, yeah, break his legs. I don't like the way you looked at me. He's one of those guys. Yeah. Very good singer, though, and he's not a bad performer. He's not a bad actor, especially in this film, because I believe he won the Oscar for this one, and that started his long-esteemed career. The Rat Pack, very famously, a group of Hollywood bros, I guess you could say. And then they did like Ocean's 11 and all that stuff later on. So yeah, this was pretty much the first. I don't know if this was his first film, but this was the one that put him on the map.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's essentially the film. And like usual, if there's a source material, I'm going to read it. So this was, right. So this was based on a book by a guy called James Jones, who I thought was Jim Jones, but
Jones.
The drinking the Kool-Aid dude. Yeah, Jonestown. Same name. I'm sorry.
Oh,
but anyway, the book is 861 pages. So this is a mammoth of the book. Wow. Yeah, it's huge. But for comparison, Gone with the Wind, which I read also, is 1,037 pages. So it's a longer book by about 200 pages.
Yeah.
Difference is, Gone with the Wind is readable. This piece of shit is not. Now listen, like when I first started reading this book, I was reading this way ahead of time, and it gave us room to go ahead and watch the other 2 movies, the last 2 that we did, which was Greatest Show on Earth and An American in Paris.
Correct, yeah.
Because I was like, man, this book is going to take me forever. Let me just go ahead and read through it. And let me tell you, man, I was really struggling. I was really, really struggling. At one point, someone put up the audiobook on YouTube, and I was like, I'll read along to the audiobook. But then I guess they got copyright stricken or something like that. It got taken down. I was like, well, I guess I'm back to my own devices. So I had to read the whole thing on my own. This book is just really, really weird because the premise, as we just discussed, is about army dudes in an army setting. And this is before Pearl Harbor happened. So you're like, okay, this is the life of an armyman, you know, an infantryman, whoever, whatever you want to call. Like, so you're like, all right. So in my mind, the only frame of reference really is Full Metal Jacket. Like, that is really mostly, well, the first half of that film is about like the life of a soldier, you know, they're getting ready for war and stuff. Infinitely more interesting film. I mean, we're going to get into this film too, but if anything, I thought I was going to get into that kind of a thing, but when I read this book, this is, let me get into like some of the things here that are in
this
this
is
book.
definitely no Full Metal Jacket.
Absolutely not. I'm going to get into some choice excerpts because there's too many to name, but here are a few. Like, for instance, when it comes to describing women, this book just goes all out. Like, it's crazy. Like, I get these are a bunch of young soldiers, right? Anywhere between maybe 18 to like their 30s, right? They're all drafted.
Yeah.
So, of course, a bunch of dudes, they're going to be horny, right? So, as such, in the book, you know, when describing a lot of different things, like here's one description here. This is about like one of the characters looking at a soap ad, and he describes it as like her arms above her head, wearing a bathing suit that looked like a leopard skin, a tight little bra over the small little snub breasts, and brief pants wrinkled enticingly across the crotch between the close together legs. And it continues. And the t-shirt fell slightly, swelling under the pressure of the perfect breasts. Shaded half circles and points of light hinted at the rubbery red nipples underneath. I was like, all right, I got it the first time. You don't need to keep going.
But it could have just been like, damn, she fine.
Exactly. And move on. No, we have to go into excruciating detail. And there's a character in this film called Karen Holmes, played by Deborah Kerr.
Deborah Kerr, yeah.
This is how she's first described when she enters the book. All the womanness of her shone into it, reached out demanding male attention as a crowded street of long-legged, tan, high-breasted women will catch your eye and pull your head around without you having ever thought about it. It's every description of a woman. Well, I wouldn't say every, but a lot of descriptions of women are like that. Also, what's not present in the film at all is the excruciating detail of venereal disease. Evidently, when they made this film, films were under the microscope of Hollywood. They had their own little committee, right? The Hays Code and whatnot was being enforced. So they're like, you can't put this, you can't put that, you can't put that. One of the things they didn't want put in the film from the book is, the boys ended up getting the clap left and right. What's the clap? That's gonorrhea.
Yeah.
And then they get into detail of like the injections and the treatments and all that other stuff. As a matter of fact, the character Karen, at one point in the film, she's described as having a miscarriage, and that's why she had to get like a hysterectomy. In the book, it's because her cheating husband gave her gonorrhea or chlamydia, one of the two, and she had to get a hysterectomy because of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. Another thing too, it's very racist. Here's a choice excerpt. I'm not going to read it literally word for word. There wasn't any N-words in my hometown, Prue said. This is the character Prue. This is the Montgomery Clift character. They didn't allow him in town, he explained. Oh, Jesus.
Man.
He explained, remembering suddenly for the first time in years, almost angrily now, 15 years after, the sign some drunken miners have painted in glaring red and hang up at the station when an N-word dropped to change the trains. The sign that then, as a boy, he had only looked at and not minded. Don't let the sun set on you in Harlan, N-word.
Man.
Quite a lot of this. And here's another one. Most N-words on the bum are running away from having killed some white man or raped some white woman. Though I met some good ones too, a lot of them on the bum. It's just like town N-words. Some are good N-words, some are bad N-words. And most of the good ones stay home. Most of the bad ones end up on the bum. All right. So that is the main character. And in the film, do you detect a hint of racism whatsoever with that character? Exactly.
No.
They clearly took that out. They were like, this is too much, bro. What is this?
They took a lot out. It's an 800-page book, right? I think they pretty much took most of it.
Yeah, well, you would think that Gone with the Wind is a huge book too, but it covered the basics as well in the film. This one, not really. There's quite a lot that they took out. It's almost as if there's some scenes in the book that are clearly in the film that we'll get into, but yeah, but there's more too. There's some Civil War sympathy stuff here as well. There's also there's sometimes the author makes an interesting point. Like early on, he compares like the senior officers to men who run corporations. Like, they all do the same thing. They use fear to control the masses, but they can't control all of us. And I'm like, well, there's some truth to that. I can't argue with that. But, so little things like that. But also, there's a thing about sexuality in the book. Oh my God. Here's one choice excerpt between Angelo and Prue. I never did like queers. Every time I get around them, I want to punch them in the head. Oh, they all right. They just particularly was all. They maladjusted. Besides, they'll buy you a preparation all night long just to get to blow you. Wow. I don't like to be blowed. And it keeps going. I have to say too, this is the unedited version that I read. The original version of the book that was published was heavily editorialized. The editors were like, bro, you cannot put some of this stuff in the book. And the author is like, no, yes, I can. I'm the writer. And I'm like, yeah, he's entitled as a writer to put whatever he wants in the book, I guess. But even the editors at the time were like, dude, you could not do this. And then, and from that redacted or that edited book, the producers of this film were like, you can't even put some of this stuff in this film.
Yeah, they're like, we're taking this out, we're taking this out, we're taking this out. Don't need this, don't need this.
But I had the privilege of reading the original text. And in the original text, too, there's a lot of cussing into it. There's a lot of sucker, motherfucker, piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. And it keeps going.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. This is the thing that I had to stop and reread because I'm like, what the did I just read? Okay, so this is around the time where there's a character called Tommy talking to Prue. So Tommy, at this point, he's just like, yeah, I always been kind of gay, is essentially what he's saying. Like, what? No, gays are made, they're not born. That's essentially what that conversation is. And this is what eventually this conversation comes to. This is the character Tommy. When I was 10, Tommy said, swiftly talking now, almost joyously. I was going to a military school in New York. My parents were divorced. My mother sent me there. A bunch of upperclassmen got, a whole bunch of them. There must have been 12 at least. Tommy's eyes were brighter, and his voice was going faster. Hardly space between the words to breathe. They got me out and tied me up and beat me, and they made me go down on all 12 of them, one after the other, and they beat me till I did it.
Man.
I was like, excuse me? What happened here?
Jeez. Well, this is also not in the movie. Thank goodness. In fact, I don't recall any character named Tommy. You said it in the movie. I don't think there was anybody.
Yeah, no, they took out quite a few characters. There's another character called Bloom, who's in the book. They took him out entirely, and that's because he's a closeted gay man. He's a Jewish closeted gay man that ends up blowing his brains out.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the most interesting parts of the book, I feel, because you hear this internal turmoil of this character. He can't take it anymore. Yeah. Then he's like, should I do it? I don't think I should do it. Should I do it? And then he finally does it, and he's like, I regret doing it. And then he dies. And you're just like, wow.
Wow.
That scene was just very, very, I can't forget it. And in a way, I kind of regret that it's not in the film, because I feel like it should have been. Because as much despicable stuff that's in this book, or how it's described rather, overall, the book is just anti-war. It's a commentary about the military in general, how it's run, how it subjugates young men, making them think a certain way, making them act certain ways. It's very critical. And, and then the author ended up writing this book called The Thin Red Line, which was later adapted into a film by, I think, Terrence Malick.
Correct.
Yeah. So it goes further into that, from what I understand. But this is the first book of this trilogy. And yeah, but there was another thing that was interesting. The Pearl Harbor section only happens at the very end of the book, like the last, I'd say, 100, 200 pages.
Okay, so that's similar to the film. I mean, it barely covers Pearl Harbor. Just it's covering the lives of these soldiers on base in Hawaii. And Pearl Harbor is just at the very end of the film. literally the last 10 minutes or whatever.
I think I understand the logic behind that because I think the intention of the book is to show what soldiers were like before that event happened and before the jingoism took full hold and people were just like rah rah America, we must fight, for the greater good. And it's just to show that this is what the soldiers were like before then. So, which I thought was interesting. It's interesting. Was it very interesting? For the most part, no. But this one part of the book was very funny. Like after the Pearl Harbor attack, what happened was a lot of the soldiers were on their convoys. They were going around into the Hawaiian base, and all these people were coming out, and they were saluting them, right? So the soldiers did the peace sign, which they call here the Winston Churchill V for victory sign. So they're like, peace. And what was really funny is how it's described here. They returned the victory sign with an even older one of their own, in which the fist is clenched and the middle finger and thumb are extended and pinched repeatedly together. The ecstatic civilians did not know that this was the old army sign for put, or that the first meant f you. Cheered them even more roundly and the troops for the first time since I led Schultfield. So I was like, that's funny. So basically all these people were flicking them off. Anyway, that is the book. It was something.
Is what's his name? Maggielli or whatever, Frank Sinatra's character. Is he so in the movie, obviously he gets sent to the military jail. I think his sentence is half a year, I think. And the guy running is the Sergeant Fatso. His name is Sergeant Fatso.
Yeah, that's Jensen. In the book. That's all in the book, yeah.
And he started with him at the bar because of the piano and all that. And so in the film, it's obviously implied that he's running the jail, so it's implied that he's going to get his ass kicked and tortured, and we hear about it, and then in the film we finally see after he escaped after a particularly brutal beating one day.
And we're talking about Maggio.
The sergeant, Maggio, and so he escapes because he actually said that I could escape anytime I want. And finally, he took the beating was too much that he did escape and died. That's all in the book as well. And
that's pretty much in the book too. Yeah,
it's worse in the book, but
the character Fatso James Hudson, played by Ernest Borgnine. Did I say his last name right?
Borgnine.
Played by Ernest Borgnine. Is it Borgnine?
Yeah.
Borgnine. I always want to say Borgnine.
No, it's Borgnine. Legendary actor career. I think he over 60-year career.
Yeah.
Died at 95. I think maybe about 10 years back.
Yeah. He died in 2012.
2012. Yeah. He's been in a bunch of stuff I've seen. In fact, we're going to be covering him in 2 movies from now.
There you go.
He's in Marty. So.
Oh, there you go. I know him from Basketball and the Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
he's also in SpongeBob.
Okay.
He plays a character in SpongeBob. That was like the last thing he did before he died.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
I never actually watched SpongeBob, but I know the character SpongeBob, and then there's his pink friend.
That's Patrick.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Yeah,
Patrick. Okay, yeah.
But anyway, I mean, he's very good in the film. He's not in it as much, but he's very good for the role that's given to him in this one.
Oh, you know what he was in? Simpsons.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. As what?
Season 5. It's the episode Boy Scouts in the Hood. He guest appears in that, and I remember the scene. He says something like, "What does he say? Like, hey, I'm Sergeant Fatso or something," and all the kids are like, "Oh yeah, we know you," and as if they know this movie from the 50s. Like, how would they know that? So I think it's not. I'm pretty sure this film was mentioned in more than one Simpsons episode, but he does guest appear in that season 5, episode 8. I think 8, maybe 10.
Anyway, we talked extensively about the book, but what about the film? We touched a little bit here and there of the film. Just like the book, there's a whole lot of nothing, I feel. Stuff happens, but does it matter for the most part? I don't think so. It's again one of those things where you had to be there at that time in order to really take in the full effect. Like if you served in the military during this time especially, a lot of things would probably stand out to you as a soldier. A lot of things would be like, oh yeah, I remember that and whatever. But again, without that context, it just feels like an outsider looking in.
Yeah, I mean, I think these movies that are, surrounded by real events and released around the same time, this was about a decade later, but something about that does I don't want to say makes it special, but it has an effect, right? Especially for those at the time, and so it resonates. This film was a huge success. I think it had a $2 million budget and made like 30 million in the box office.
Correct.
It did really well. It was a very popular film, and I don't particularly like it that much, to be honest. But the film does a good job right off the bat, getting you familiar with the characters early on. I think it's one of the better things about the film, probably one of the strengths. And but that being said, like I said earlier, it's no Full Metal Jacket, and it doesn't have to be. It's so different.
Yeah, there's no mandate. There's no mandate that every film has to be Full Metal Jacket, but
exactly,
it's got to be interesting.
And, there's a story there, but it doesn't really go there, if that makes sense.
Doesn't go anywhere.
The subplots. There's definitely character points in development. That is really what the focus is on in this film. In particular, the three characters, although it does cover a little bit more than that. And so with that aspect and the one thing for each character, it does cover pretty well. But as far as a major story, it's kind of thin, to be honest. Like we said, it barely covers Pearl Harbor until the end, which is fine. That's what they wanted to do. And I was okay with some of the soap opera melodrama, of course, but I just assumed that the film was going somewhere, and it doesn't really quite get there, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
and it just kind of Pearl Harbor happens, and the movie's over.
Yeah,
so there's some memorable scenes, of course, and famous beach scene. There's a couple scenes that stand out quite a bit, but the acting is all right. It's it's okay, but some of the dialogue is kind of wacky.
Yeah, I mean, Burt Lancaster in particular, he's got like a presence to him, just like any other Hollywood guy or a Hollywood star at that time does. Montgomery Clift, he did fine in his role as Pruitt, but I don't know. There just wasn't anything stand out about him, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it won, best actor, supporting actor rather. But who knows? I mean, the reasons
and stuff, and politics and whatever favors. Maybe Frank Sinatra threatened to break some legs or something. Allegedly, Hollywood legend says that the reason why Sinatra got his role is because he threatened with mafia connections people in the studio.
Yeah, I mean,
which is like not true. It's not true apparently, but it's funny to think about.
Yeah, I mean that's really when it comes down to it. I don't think it's not the worst movie, but it's honestly not one I would watch again. It's definitely it's probably one of my least favorite of the Best Picture movies. I mean, I wouldn't quite put it in the middle. It's below that, but
I definitely put it below too, honestly. Yeah, because for what little that we covered in this film, it's just really like a series of vignettes, and because the Montgomery Clift character Pruitt, he's a boxer. He doesn't want to box because of an accident, and they're always fighting him and they're picking on him and stuff. That stuff was interesting. It kind of reminded me of Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket, where they're constantly picking on the guy, egging him on. And that led to a different outcome in that film. Whereas in this film, Pruitt is finally, boxing because they finally pushed him to that limit. But even still, he's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not until he avenges his buddy Frank Sinatra's Maggio's death, where he ends up fighting Ernest Borgnine's character in the alley, and he stabs him.
Yeah.
And then he goes into hiding after that, only to come out at the very end of the film, and he gets shot to death by soldiers because they think he's like a deserter or something. I don't know. I don't remember.
But yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah.
That's exactly it. So, yeah. So, I mean, stuff like that happens, but it's like, it's interesting, but it's not that interesting. Frank Sinatra is just mostly a belligerent drunk, and smoker and womanizer. And it's funny, too, because like the place they go to, it's like a nightclub is what they call it. In the freaking book, it's like a brothel. They're straight up prostitutes. Yeah. It's just like, the main love interest to Pruitt is a prostitute. Was it Laureen in the movie played by Donna Reed?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so quite a lot was taken out. And I feel like as much as I don't like the book, there was some authenticity to that book that I did appreciate. It was honest. I may not like it, but at least it was honest. This movie feels phony, conversely. So I'm just like, nah, I'm not digging this. This is like a paint by numbers, what we think a war film should be. And I use that term loosely, war, quotes, because no war happens until the very end.
Exactly, yeah.
Anyway, let's get into ratings here. Overall, I think I give this one a 4 out of 10. It's barely interesting. There are way better war films out there.
Yeah.
I would say don't waste your time. But, there are some scenes that are interesting and good. So watch some clips on YouTube.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10. It has a lot of problems. I don't recommend it. I wouldn't watch it again. Like I said, some of the elements surrounding the characters and how that draws you in and getting you familiar with the characters, they did a pretty good job with that. But other than outside of that, yeah, film's not for me. 5 out of 10.
Yep. And with that, guys, thanks for tuning in. And we'll be seeing you for the next film, which is a Marlon Brando classic.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it. It's a good one.
Hell yeah. But until then, see ya.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.